Hello and welcome to another Tinkercad tutorial. Today we're going to be learning how to create our own bridge house. This is one I made earlier. It's my version of bridge. It's called the Bridge House in Cumbria, in a place called Ambleside, in a town called Ambleside, and it's quite a well-known building, quite a popular tourist attraction, and one of the very few buildings, one of the very few bridges that has a house on it. There are a couple of others in different countries. There's one here in Germany, which I found, and there's Pulteney Bridge. I'm not sure if people live in there, but there are certainly shops on these bridges. And there are one or two in the world, but it's very rare generally to have a house on a bridge. So there was Old London Bridge in the olden days, which had lots of buildings and shops on. That's no longer in existence. But you could, once I've taught you the techniques on how to do this, you could, create your own house on a bridge using these as inspiration. So yeah, here we go then. So what I'm going to do, this is quite a complicated model. This took me a couple of hours to create. So we're going to do a slightly simplified version, but I will at the end, or in the second part, give you a bit of explanation of the extra bits and pieces that I added onto this one to give it more detail and flaws and things. So, all right, let's make a start. So the first thing what I might do is just make a copy of this, so you can see how it's all put together. I'm going to basically ungroup lots and lots of these. Keep doing ungroup, and you can see the constituent parts of the building. Okay. So the first thing I did was to create the let me get rid of these bits for a minute. Was to create the hollow. So I basically started off with this block here, and then created this sort of semicircle, flattened semicircle that's cut out of that. Let's get rid of that as well. So let's make a start over here with a completely new design. So we're going to go for a block. And you just scale it to sort of a rectangle, and then give it some height. I referred quite a lot to the pictures as I was doing this, so I wanted to make sure that my bridge was the right sort of height. Made the bridge section. Don't need that one there. Don't need that. It's good. Tinkercad tutorials. Right. So this is probably a bit tall. Let's go for that. You can temporarily might change it to a colour that's easier to work with. I find that red a bit tricky. So the next thing we need to do is to cut out an arch from this. Now what I used was this round roof tool. So I'm just going to put it roughly on the face there. I'm going to change the work plane on this face and center it. Shift, so both are selected. Align. I don't want the main block to move, so I'll click on that. In fact, actually, look, it's already centered. And then I'm going to increase the size of that from the center. So I'm going to go Shift Alt like this. And that's pretty good, actually. I'm quite happy with that. So I'm using the upper part of the semicircle, or half cylinder, really, isn't it? So I'm just going to pull that. Make sure that's long enough to push through the whole building, whole bridge base rather. I'm going to put the work plane back because I don't need it to be there actually, and select this, make that one a hole, select that. Now you can see I added on later on I added on these extra bits here just to give that bit of that shape there, but I'll show you how to do that later, or maybe in a second video. So there's my basic bridge. So you probably know arch shapes are one of the strongest stronger shapes for bridges. So then you just put a house shape in the middle. So I'm going to go put the work plane actually on top of the bridge base. I wonder how wide I made it. I might make sure it's 35. Okay, so I'm going to make sure this one is 35 centimeters, 35 millimeters rather, long. And how wide is this? This is 90. Well, actually, it doesn't need to be. We don't want that to be 90, do we? That'd be far too long. I'm going to center it by selecting both, align, click on the base. Do that, and let's align it so it's centered as well. I've selected both, align, click on the base because I don't want it to move. There we go. Now one thing you can do, this is a useful little trick, is if I want this house to be wider, but it's already centered, so I don't want it to go, if I do it like this, it goes off center again. So what you can do, if you hold down Alt, it will enlarge from the center like that, symmetrically, which is really handy. Saves you having to re-center it every time you want to change the size. So let's make it, yeah, something like that. I'm going to go for give it a bit of height. Let's look at the Ambleside one. So it's actually, this one's really quite tall, isn't it? In relation to its, does that look about right? Its width. Okay, so I'm just doing this by eye. Let's make it 56. Okay, so that's that part there. Now we notice that the roof kind of goes up that way. The roof slopes up from there. So we're going to, let's check the size of our footprint there. So it's 35 by 42. So we're going to get a roof. In fact, let's put the work plane on top. Get a roof. Rotate it 90 degrees so it's oriented the correct way. We'll resize it to be the same as this. So 42 wide by 35 that way. 35. I'm going to center it. So hold down Shift. That's selected. So I'll just hold down Shift to select the base as well. Align. Click on the base because we don't want it to move. And that is there. Now I'm actually going to, let's check the height of that roof. That's a bit it's not very steep, is it? So I'm going to make the roof a little bit steeper by pulling it up. If we have a look at this picture here, you get an idea of the angle. So let's make it, snows quite a lot up north, so you tend to find the further north you go, the steeper the roofs are. So that is fine. Now what I'm actually going to do is use, because you'll see we've got this feature here, which is an overhanging roof, which is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to do that now. So to do that, I need to put my thinking cap on. I'm going to make a copy of this one. So I'm going to go Control D, and that will copy it exactly in the same place. I might just change the colour so I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to enlarge it from the centre, Shift Alt, to give the correct amount of overhang. That's okay, that's a good amount of overhang, I'd say. What's it like on the real thing? It's actually slightly more than that. Go on, let's go out a tiny bit more. That's a bit too much, wasn't it? Let's turn the snap grid down a little. 0.5 millimeters. Okay, that will do. Now I need to move that out a bit. So I'm going to move the roof off. I'm then going to make a copy of this roof here, which is going to be a hole. So I'm going to go to Control D for duplicate. I'm going to move that through this model here and make sure it's wide enough to stick out both ends. Like that. Make that into a hole. That's still on the 5mm snap grid. That's fine. That works. Then I can group that together. Just check that it looks correct. It's reasonably about thick enough, I reckon. Let's group that together. Now I've got a roof. Because I use a 5mm snap grid, it's easy to move that back in place. Then you've got that cool roof thing. Now what I'm going to do to make life easier for later is I'm going to hollow this out now straight away. So the first thing I'm going to do is group these two together. So select both, shift, select both, group them together. Then I'm going to make a copy of this, and then you'll see what happens. So Control D for duplicate. I might put the work plane down here, and that duplicate is a hole, so I can basically want to resize that hole from the center. So Shift Alt, let's turn the snap grid down a bit to say 0.5mm. Shift Alt, and you'll be able to see this gives you can see how thick the walls are going to be doing that. And the walls really are, they're quite thick in this building if you look at the pictures. So I'm going to make them reasonably thick, like that. So that is that, and then the main part should be also shrunk around as well. So that centre bit selected. Now don't unselect this because it's a bit of a fiddle to select the inner thing again. So I'm just going to hold down Shift and select the outer wall as well, like this, and then group them together. Now you can't tell, but actually these are now, it's hollow, and you'll see in a minute that when we put windows and doors in, you'll be able to see through them. There's the roof on. Yep, that's good. And then let's see what's going on with these windows. So what I'm going to do first is make a larger window on the bottom. I'm going to put my work plane on the side, choose a hole, change the snap grid back to 1mm, make it rectangular. Now the bridge, I had to look at the pictures here to see how wide to make it. Yeah, so it's almost, it's like if you split that into thirds, a third of it would be made up of the window. So I want it to be a bit smaller than that. You have to imagine you can fit kind of three in a row. That's probably about right. I'm going to centre it. How high up is it? It's about there, isn't it? A bit lower than that, I reckon. Just doing it by eye. You can do this exactly how you like. It isn't, don't have to do it exactly the same as me. Right. Now what I'm going to do is, this is going to be like the window frame. So, let's centre it. Shift, select, align, click on the base because I don't want the base to move, centre it. Now I'm going to push this in just 1mm. I'm actually going to do the same on the other side in a minute and you'll see why shortly. So, push that in 1mm, like that. I'm going to duplicate that, bring that to the other side. Oh, went the wrong way. This way. Put the work plane here. Line it up to 0 first of all, and then we're going to push it in 1 more millimeter, like that. And while I'm at it, I might do an impression for the other houses as well. So let's go Control D for duplicate. The other windows, I meant, not houses. And I'm going to use that handy resize tool again. Resize from the center. So hold down Alt, resize, and you get that nice thinner one. I might enlarge this slightly actually. Let's do Shift Alt. Yeah, and then resize from the center. Hold down Alt. That's about right, I think. So let's select the wall. We'll just make sure, where is that? That's directly on the surface at the moment. Was it pushed in? It's actually pushed in a bit, isn't it? So let's get it so it's just on the surface, which it is then. And push that in 1mm. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Control D for duplicate. Bring it to the other side of the house. Put this plane here. Put it to 0. And then push it in, so it's got the flashing thing, then move it in 1mm. I'm going to select all of those, group them together actually. Okay, and then I'm going to, oh, do you know what, I might even, no, I'll do the house later. So now I'm going to group those with the, now, do I do that now or later? I'm going to do it now. So, in fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a copy of those, all those four. So Control D, and these are actually going to become the window holes. So let's select that, group that with the thing. Now notice it hasn't cut all the way through. I didn't want it to cut through. I just wanted it to make a bit of an impression, because that's going to be like the window frame. Now I'm going to use these again, but shrink them down a bit. And these are going to become the actual holes in the windows. So that is back to the thing. Now I've not tried this before, but I wonder what will happen if I do Shift Alt and resize them all at the same time. Oh yeah, and I think I need to do them individually. So I'm going to use this one. Let's ungroup them. And to make it easy, I'm just going to have this one. I'm just going to do like two window pane down the middle. What did I do on my one over here? Yeah, I just had two upright windows, so basically one frame in the middle. So let's do that. Now I'm going to ungroup those windows. Have I done that already? Yes, I have. And I'm going to resize that a little bit. So make it a bit narrow like that. Maybe a touch narrower. So 1mm in from the edge. Yeah, I think that looks good. 1mm in from there. Right, and let's see what that looks like if I duplicate that. Control D for duplicate. Now I have a feeling, yeah, that's going to be that middle pane is going to be thick enough. So what I'm going to do is make this go slightly further to the left. So that's now going to be 0.5mm from the left. I might make it a bit tall as well. 0.5mm. Actually, no, I think it's fine the way it was. Right, let's do the same again. Control D. Move that across like that. Now, because the opposite side should be exactly in line, I should be able to group those together and then make them just really long. So, in fact, I can do it from this way around. Is it going to let me do it? No, it's not. No matter. Let's just make it really long like this. And let's push it all the way through. Does it come out the other side? Oh, I didn't group these this side yet, so I need to group this side first. Sorry, bear with. Let's pull that out just for a minute, because I didn't actually group those two with the shift that as well, so they're selected. Okay, now let's pull it through. Yep, good. I'm going to do the same procedure with the lower windows. It's a bit of a thin window pane, so maybe I should have made it slightly well, I don't know, but it's okay. Okay, I'm going to do the same on this one. I want to, are they both grouped together? No, I don't think they are, so I'm going to shrink it a little bit. I'm just going to do it by eye. I reckon a bit of trial and error. Oh, that moved the whole building. Didn't want to do that. Did Control Z there to undo that. Right, and let's see what that one. I think I can make it a little bit thicker. Right, let's copy that. Control D. Yeah. Could have like an ever so slightly. You know what it's quite sometimes useful to do is just bring those down a bit so I can see accurately. Yeah, let's make them like 0.5mm wider towards the center. 0.5mm there. Do the same on that one. Yep, that's pretty good. And I'm going to do the same as I did before on the other one. Basically group those. Well, don't necessarily need to group them together actually. Pull that out and push it all the way through. Select both again. I unselected it. Yay, it's come all the way through. Right, let's... Actually, I'm going to group those holes together. Let's select those holes together and that lot of holes and the base. With any luck, yeah, we've cut through all the way through, and our walls are decent thickness. That's fine. On my model, I made them the walls even thicker, but I actually prefer, yeah, we can fit more stuff in if they're this thin. You can decide how thick you want it. Alright, so that's the windows. I reckon if we go inside, we should be able to see up as well. There's that roof. Sloping up nicely. Alright, and then it's just going to do the door quickly. On this bridge house, the door is on. It's actually got 2 doors and a flight of stairs between them. That's a server problem. So let's put the door in. So I'm going to select work plane. Let's do a similar thing to the door that we did with the windows. So you have like a door frame. So I'm going to shrink that down from the center. Raise it to a suitable door height. I'm just going to use one door in this one because this is a simplified model. We're not going to have all the stairs and things for now. Although we'll show you that in another video. Going to have a little bit of a step. Yeah, let's leave enough for a step. Okay, I'm going to push that in 1 millimeter to get the frame thing. So push in 1 millimeter. I'm going to duplicate that and have a slightly smaller part of that, which is the hole that's all the way through. So in fact, let's just move that duplicate out of the way for a minute. Is this centered? I can't remember if I centered it. Shift, select, align, click on the thing you don't want to move. No, it wasn't centered. Good job I checked. Right, so this is just pushed in 1 millimeter. It's not all the way through. Let's group that together. Good. Right, and then I'm going to take the door. It's back in there. And shrink it down a tiny bit. Is that moved all the way across? Let's center that as well. Can't quite see. Right, I'm going to shrink it a tiny bit. So Shift Alt. In fact, let's make it a bit wider. Shift Alt. Maybe let's change the snap grid to 0.5. I just want like a reasonable door frame around there. That's about 1 millimeter or so, isn't it? Yeah, let's then move this one up so you get a similar size door frame. Okay, now I'm going to push that through. So I'm going to make it nice wide. If you wanted a door on the other side, then of course you could just make this really long and push it all the way through. But I'm just going to have one door for now. So let's push it through. I'll group it together with a base. I just held down Shift. And now we've got a door as well. One thing I should have done first actually is to make a copy of that hole, because I'm going to use that to make the actual door itself. Control D for duplicate. I'm going to move that using a 5mm snap grid, make it solid. Then, because like that is exactly the right shape now, I can turn this into a door. Oh, hello, wrong dimension there. How thick is that? That looks a little bit on the thin side, maybe. Let's make it. But yeah, it's like, yeah, 1 millimeter. That's better. Let's bring that back in to position. Oh, for some reason, oh yeah, okay. Let's put the work plane to normal actually, or maybe to there, so I know it's in the right position. Okay, now for the door, I'm going to have mine slightly open, like that, and get it so it fits in there. Okay. And one thing I will need to be a bit aware of is, if you're 3D printing this, this has a gap. If you can see the door, bottom of the door is floating above, so you would need to, what I have done is just put like a step there, or build the floor up so that if you're going to 3D print it. Okay, so that's that. The door does open like this way on the thing. One thing I did forgot to is to add a door handle. So what I might do is just Control Z it before I twisted it, put the work plane on, and just add a very small thing. I'm going to cheat and just use the door itself. Control D. No, I didn't actually copy it. Control D. Move it out 1 millimeter. I'm just going to, the reason I'm using the door is I can't be bothered to use drag a new block out because it's just kind of the right shape. I'm using the Alt resize from the center thing on this one. Just pop a door on, pop a little handle there. You could put a hole through there, but it won't really, you won't really see it in a print. But I'll do it anyway. Why not? Why not? Hole. Change the snap grid to really small. Resize from the center. Pull it out. Might resize from the center again. Group that together. Group that together. Group that together. There we are. Got a door. Yeah, and then you can rotate that in again. I like to have it open. The doors are open, so you can, if you've got a light inside, it's quite good. Even if you have it open a tiny bit like that, it's quite good. Yeah, good. That's the door. So, I mean, that's really the basics. What I've got on mine are these step features here, which I'm sure you can figure out how to do that. You know, you just put your blocks down. One useful tool is aligning to the edge though, so I'm going to show you how to do that. If I click on, if I make say the first layer, and I want that to be lined up exactly to the edge, it actually is doing it there, but let's say I move it out a bit. If you go, hold down Shift, select the base, align, click on the base if you don't want to move it, and then you can see you click on that dot there, and I think you should be able to do that one there, and it aligns it nicely, and you can make make a wall there. Of course, duplicate it. There's no point reinventing the wheel. Just duplicate it across, and then you can build up steps by resizing that if you wanted to do that. Just trying to be too clever for its own good there. But you can play around with that. You can put walls and different features in. Now, at the moment, this apart from the roof and the base, this would 3D print. The main part of this house would 3D print correctly. There aren't any big overhangs. So if you wanted to 3D print this, I would group the main house together like this, and then I would print this bit separately. I'd print this bit on its side, so I'd go Control D for duplicate. You can do this in your slicer software, but I would print that like that. The house itself, did I already duplicate the house? No, the house I would print like that way up, and just bring it down to ground. Again, you can do this in the slicer software, but like that. And then the roof, I would probably print the roof upright, so I would do this. I'm just going to delete this shenanigans here. I would rotate it 90 degrees, this direction, and print it upright, because then you've got no overhangs. You can see that when you put those together, that would, you'd have your house. That would look pretty good. On Tinkercad, you can export individual parts. So here you can press export, just press the selected shape, and then you could print those separately and stick them together. All right, so that's the end of the basic video. I'm going to do another video next where I talk about some extra features, including the chimney and some other more complicated bits. All right, hope you found that helpful. I'll see you in the next video.